if you just stick to something long enough to get actually good at it and get some traction. And I'm talking 12 months.
Yeah.
Like you can literally pick any new thing in America and just stick to it for 12 months, get around the right people and actually study it and just do nothing but that for 12 months. And you can go to the top.
Yeah.
I truly believe that.
Yeah. Here we are, Rich Summers, episode 9. Welcome, brother.
What's up, dude? How you doing?
Pretty good. Everything good? Drive was solid?
Yeah, man. Just a 22-minute drive from downtown San Diego. And I was thinking Carlsbad, but 22 minutes is a lot easier than Carlsbad.
Yeah, 22 minutes is super solid. I looked at some studios out there, and there was nothing really that we could really work with. And then we ended up coming through here, and I think it's Miramar, kind of like next to La Jolla, the MK Lab. And dude, it turned out great. As you can see, the logo looks good. But really, really happy to have you here, bro.
Dude, thank you for having me. And man, I feel like it was just a month ago you came on my podcast and we were talking and you're like, man, I want to start my own. I'm like, dude, do it. And kudos to you, man. You move quick. You literally launched this thing really quick, which I love. I'm an action taker.
Yeah.
Clearly you are too.
Yeah, I am too.
But like money loves speed and like I like to move quick. So when I have an idea, I'm like, let's implement this right away. Like I don't have time to waste. And one thing I learned in life is like the quicker you can navigate and make decisions, the quicker you'll grow. Like you will grow 5x, 10x faster than the other person that takes a week to make a decision because you're making a decision in 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And you compound that over years and years and decades, you're going to leave a lot of people in the dust. So I love that you move quick. And dude, talk about this setup, man. This is stellar, bro.
Yeah.
I love the vibe and just the plants, and it's just kind of a chill vibe in here. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, of course, dude. And thanks for coming again. But yeah, no, you're right. Obviously, we've been to dinners together back and forth a couple times now. And the very first time we did, you're like, hey, you should start a podcast. And the first thing I did was like, all right, fuck it, let's do it, you know? So, super happy. Obviously, I got my boy, Nick. We're mimicking a little bit of what you're doing because I really like going on yours. And, shout out to your podcast, the Summers Report. And I had a really good time. We talked about pickleball. We talked about a little bit of, how to invest into pickleball, maybe things like that. But one thing that I want to talk to you about today, obviously you don't play very much pickleball, even though you dabble a little bit. But the number one question that I have is, how do you get started into real estate?
Yeah, man. So I was an air traffic controller for 11 years for the FAA. And, I was taught like most people from a young age to go to school, get good grades, go to college and get a job. And for the most part, that's what I did. I got a sales job in college, selling cell phones at the mall here in North County, San Diego. I went to Cal State San Marcos. And I was at North County Mall selling cell phones for a singular wireless dealer. And that was my first taste of any sort of sales position. Before that, I had always worked like retail jobs, movie theater when I was in high school. And I excelled at it. I actually really liked it. And I did pretty well. And I think because I'm competitive. I played sports growing up, baseball, basketball. I skateboarded. And so, with sales, it's competitive. I always wanted to be the best. And so I did pretty well. And then a couple of my coworkers, they went over to sell cars. And they were like, dude, come sell cars. You'll make more money. So I started selling Nissans. The last 2 years I was in college, Massey Nissan down here in Kearny Mesa, San Diego. And dude, I did good. And I really excelled at that. And so I thought, man, I want to sell commercial real estate. And, Greg,
I do know Greg.
Courtney's father, your soon-to-be father-in-law. So anyways, Greg is in commercial real estate. So I thought, man, I want to sell commercial real estate. You get the high commissions. So I get out of school, 2008, and I interview at a couple commercial real estate brokerages, CBRE and Grubb & Ellis. And they were like, dude, we love your hustle, but this is not the right time to get in the industry. And they pulled their internship positions because the whole economy was coming down and everything was crashing. Like I literally remember being at the car lot, watching the news, and like the stock market was crumbling, the real estate market was blowing up. All these homes were going back to the bank, and like it was like a crazy time, and everyone was doing layoffs, and it was a shitty time to be in the job market. And so I found myself selling cars, just sitting on the car lot, wondering like, what am I going to do with my life? And I stumbled across a job as an air traffic controller. My dad was a pilot for American. My mom was, but I say I grew up middle class. My mom, as you know, was an immigrant from Taiwan. And my dad was a pilot for American Airlines. And so he was like, hey, the FAA is hiring air traffic controllers right now with no experience. You should check it out. So I applied, and they literally hired me like off the street with no experience. And they said, can you pass a drug test? Can you be out in Oklahoma City in like 3 weeks. And I was like, yes, let's do it. And so I went out to Oklahoma City, ended up doing that career for 11 years. Loved it. Met some really great people along the way. And about 8 years in, maybe this is like year 10, actually. This is actually a year and a half before I stepped out of there. I was in the break room and I overheard my coworker talking about how he just closed on a fourplex in Cleveland. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I was like, how did you do that? And he said, go read this book and go listen to this podcast. It was the Bigger Pockets podcast. And I just became obsessed. I just started literally listening to podcasts, binge listening, reading books. I stopped going out. You know, I think there's a season in life to where you gotta sacrifice certain things. And it's not forever, but I sacrificed going out. I sacrificed dating. And I just worked 56 hours a week as an air traffic controller, and I just freaking studied real estate, and I just breathed it, I lived it, and I just became obsessed. And I ended up cashing out my 401k, which is the only money I really had in my name at that time. And I cashed out my 401k, and that was my seed money. I had about $300 and something thousand in there. I said, fuck it, I'm going to pay the taxes on it. I'm going to pay a 10% penalty to the Fed, 2.5% penalty to the state of California. And I'm going to invest that. I bought an 11-unit building in Cincinnati for $350,000, put 25% down, and I put the rest into a JV deal with 2 partners, 32 units in Indianapolis. That was the only money I had in my name. And yeah, fast forward to now, 5 years later, I'm out of the air traffic position. I got a team, and we got about $80 million of real estate now. I flipped that 401k into about $80 million of real estate. Of course, we got a lot of investors, a lot of partners now, but we got a big thing, man. We got about 100 investors, and we're rocking and rolling. So it's definitely been an interesting journey, if you would, over the last 5 years.
Yeah, and dude, that's amazing. Coming from like kind of like an 8 to 5 job to I'm going to be an entrepreneur, and I'm going to read a lot of these books. I'm going to put in the time. I'm going to sacrifice all these things that come with being successful. And then, you know, fast forward 5, 6, 7 years later, right? It's not overnight, obviously. You just become that guy to some extent, right?
Yeah. And I'll say this, though. You know, a lot of people, when you start something new, they're going to tell you it's too risky. They're going to tell you not to do it. You know, the idea to cash out a 401k and to leave a government job that pays well, that has a pension after 25 years. A lot of people told me it was too risky. A lot of people told me not to do it. Friends, coworkers, family. And so, you know, a lot of people get stopped in their tracks because of that. And I think my biggest takeaway looking back is all those risks are real. So put some weight on it. But on the other side of the balance scale is another risk. And it's this. I could be 80 years old one day, laying in my bed, staring at the ceiling, kicking myself because I never fucking tried anything in life.
Yeah.
How about that risk? That's a risk too that a lot of people don't allude to.
Yeah, no, and it goes a long way for sure. And I think the biggest thing that comes with it, right, it's maybe that is the signal that you need to kind of take the next step, right? Like when people are doubting you, people are thinking, you know, you're doing the wrong thing, Rich. You know, what are you doing? It was kind of similar to me when I got my car. I had a Ford Focus at the time back in 2021. And I remember I put in my PS5, a TV, and a couple shirts, and I drove from San Diego to Texas because I wanted to play pro pickleball. And then everyone was like, what are you doing? Why are you going to Austin, Texas for? This is not real. Just come back, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then fast forward now 5 years later, kind of like around the same, you know, amount of time that you did. It's like, you know, I'm making a good living. Now I have a podcast. I get to talk to people like you, hang out with people like you, you know, keep on building relationships, keep on building my own, you know, persona, my own self. Now I have a fiance and a kid, you know, super excited for that. And yeah, sometimes people doubting you is a time for you to go and step forward and come out of the shell and do what you want to do.
100%, man. And like a lot of those people that doubt you early on or tell you, you know, it's too risky. It's not, it's really because they love you and they care about you, which is their way of thinking is not going to necessarily be what's going to work for you. Yeah. Right. And I think advice, a lot of traditional advice is sound advice for certain people, but it might not be the best advice for you. Right. Yeah. And I think that's my biggest takeaway. But, you know, a lot of those folks that were, you know, kind of naysayers, once they see some success, then they come around. They're like, oh, you know, I love what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But it's like, you got to prove it out before it becomes cool, you know?
Yeah. And what was the one thing to you that made you want to take that huge leap and be like, this is exactly what I wanted to do? Because, I mean, you could say, yeah, I heard my coworker talking about this and that, but there's something that ignites within you that makes you want to do the same thing. So was it do you want fame? Do you want money? Do you want people kind of knowing who you are? What was it for you that was like, okay, this is what I need to do to become somebody?
Yeah. I think this answer has kind of transformed or progressed
Hmm.
over time. So like when I first started getting into real estate investing, I was just thinking like I want to get some passive income. I thought it'd be cool to own some investment real estate. And after I did a couple deals and I saw that it worked, I was like, I'm going to make a living out of this thing, and I'm gonna use this as a vehicle to leave my day job, and I'm going to build a big thing. And then once I got like to a point where I left my day job and I had enough passive income coming in to where I could comfortably leave and reallocate those 56 hours that I was spending on the day job into my own stuff, that was a tick up. But what really changed for me was October of 2022. Um, I had started putting out content that year. I'd started taking my social media seriously, and I started getting a little bit of traction. And I decided that I was no longer gonna reach my full potential with my two partners that I had, and we had a successful partnership. I still own a couple deals with them. They're great dudes. We're homies now. Um, and I just realized we had a different level of risk tolerance. And I think in this game, you got to have a certain level of risk tolerance, and you got to be okay with the unknown. You're never going to have all the answers to get from point A to point B, and you just got to have the confidence to know like, hey, like, shit's going to come up. But to have the confidence to know like when shit does come up that you haven't seen before, that you're gonna get through it and you're gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
And I felt like with my two old partners, they didn't have that same level of risk tolerance, and so whenever we had a decision, it was a grueling decision, but it was always majority vote. And so I would always get voted out of these decisions, and their risk tolerance is very low. And so I felt like I was no longer going to reach my full potential under that structureship, even though it was a successful partnership. All three of us quit our jobs, and we bought a lot of real estate together. But I felt like in order for me to get to the next level, I had to leave that. And so that was the moment where I decided, okay, I'm going to go do my own thing. It was a tough decision, but that decision propelled me into like, dude, I've grown more in the last year and 8 months since that decision than I did the prior 37 years of my life, because now, win or lose, it's on me.
Hmm.
And so, that's when I started hiring out more team members. Went and got an office. I got my own podcast studio. I said, hey, you guys keep the old podcast. We had an old podcast called the Multifamily Takeoff. And I said, you guys keep the podcast. I'm going to start my own. I said, I'm taking the meetup. And I took everything I liked and didn't like about that podcast. I started my own podcast, got the set, as you know, and hired a lot of team members. And we started building out our own thing. And I don't know what it is, man, but like before when I had partners, it was like, yeah, it's cool. You're like sharing a lot of the workload and the responsibility, but like when shit hits the fan, it's not all on you.
Yeah.
Now, it's like I wake up every morning and like I know like all the future of all my team members, like that depends on where I take this.
Hmm.
In the future, where I take this. Our 100 investors, like they're depending on me. All of our mastermind members, like I got to perform for them, and help them in any way I can. So now everything's on my shoulders, win or lose. But I love it, dude. There's no better motivation or inspiration. So to answer your question, man, full circle, the reasons I'm in this game now, I want to build a legacy, and I want to build a big thing, and I want to help a lot of investors. I want to help a lot of mastermind members, and I want to build a big real estate portfolio, and I want to help a lot of people along the way. And that's a lot of the reason I do the content, all that sort of stuff. But I want to build a big thing. We're only on this planet for so long, and so why not go for it? Why not play to win the game?
Yeah, I totally get it. And I think that mindset goes a long way, especially when you hear all these stories of like Michael Jordan, for example, and you watch that interview and it's like, who's taking the last shot in the finals,
Mhm.
finals seven of the last game, last seconds, like me, I'm taking that shot, right? So having that risk, but also being the one that's okay with taking the risk and maybe even failing, that's what makes you better. And that's what makes you go a long way, right? And it's
Mhm.
kind of what I'm hearing. One thing that I want to touch on real quick, you had the two partners that you initially invested in real estate with, right? What are they now?
Yeah, so they pivoted. So initially, when we got into real estate, we were buying apartment buildings, and
Mm-hmm.
we still own a couple together, but they've pivoted since. they're buying ground up development deals in San Diego. So they're basically buying like old single family properties on big lots to where they can basically tear down those properties and then build, 10, 20, 30 apartment units.
Yeah.
These are development projects that take, 3 years to come to fruition. It's definitely a lucrative play. But that's what they're doing right now. I had a couple of them on the podcast, actually both of them on the podcast recently. So we caught up, and yeah, it's cool to see everything they're doing, man. And I wish them nothing but the best. And they're good dudes. And I would trust them with my kids if I had kids.
If you had kids.
If I had kids, I do want kids, but I'm probably not ready for 4 or 5 years, please.
As a busy real estate investor or entrepreneur, time is money and first impression is everything. Every day to make it easy on myself, I wear Built Basics clothing. Whether you're a girl or guy looking for workout gear, joggers, shirts, button-downs, hats, or shoes, Built's got you covered. Super comfortable, tight in all the right places to make you look fresh and clean all the time. Visit BuiltBasics.com and use promo code SUMMERS20 to receive 20% off of your order. Again, that's BuiltBasics.com. That's BYLT Basics.com. Use promo code SUMMERS20 to receive 20% off of your order. Now back to the show.
Interesting. How many kids do you want?
I want a big family, man. I want
Big family.
I want at least 3 or 4 kids.
3 or 4.
Yeah.
Do you know how many boys and girls?
Man, a perfect world. I have 4 kids, 2 guys, 2 girls.
2 guys, 2 girls. Yeah, I mean, I have a girl now, and I definitely want another kid, and I want it to be a boy. Because, I want to see and feel, each one differently.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's different things that you teach and grow from a boy or from a girl, and I'm really excited for me and for yourself to, come to that point. What would be the number one piece of advice that you would give somebody that wants to get started in the real estate world?
My number one piece of advice would be to get around folks that are actually doing it at a successful clip. There's a lot of, if you go to your friends and family for advice on how to buy real estate and they've never owned any real estate, how is that going to be sound advice?
Yeah.
So go to people that have done it and people that are successful at doing it. And there's a lot of mentors out there in the space that have coaching programs, and they did a couple deals, and now they stopped buying deals, and they're more interested in growing their coaching business. And so I wouldn't go to one of those folks either. I would go to someone that's actively buying deals and actively a real estate investor first, and then by the way, they have a mentorship program second.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts for the people that live in San Diego? For me, for example, right? Like when we look at the market, and obviously everything in San Diego appreciates, but you look at these houses and they're, no offense to anybody, but they're probably like mid to low, quality houses, and they're like 2 beds and 2 baths, and they're like over $1 million. Do you think people should be actually buying houses, or do you think you should get into real estate first as investors, and then once you get passive income coming, they should buy their own house? Do you think people should never buy their own house? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So my advice would be, if you can get into a house, and you're going to hear a lot of different stuff. Grant Cardone's going to tell you don't ever buy a house. And some people are going to tell you buy a house. I'm going to say this. If you are out there listening to this and you got a W-2 and you have the ability to go get a low money down loan, 3.5% down or no money down as a primary residence, go buy that house. And if you don't think that you're going to be able to afford the payment, rent out the other rooms for a little bit and quote unquote house hack it, and that will help supplement your mortgage. And after you live there as a primary residence for a little bit of time, it doesn't even need to be a full year. You can move out and then turn that into a full-time rental. You could turn it into a short-term rental. And, you can go and get FHA loan right now for 3.5% down. There's credit unions out there. I've done a couple of these. Navy Federal Credit Union, 0 money down. And that's a powerful play. Like 2 of my best real estate investments I got with those Navy Fed, no money down loans. I lived in those properties for a little bit, and now they're short-term rentals. And those things pay me every single month. I get to depreciate those assets, so I don't pay taxes on that money. And then in addition to that, they go up over value in time. And because it's San Diego, it's good dirt. Every 10 to 15 years, real estate's going to double like clockwork. And so I think that's the easiest way for the everyday person to become a millionaire, is to buy a low, no money down house and then turn it into a rental, so you don't have to cover the entire mortgage on your own. And then, over time, rents go up as well. Eventually, this thing will start cash flowing, it'll start paying you every single month, and you just sit on it 10, 15 years down the road. This thing's going to double like clockwork, and you're going to make $1 million.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the most important lesson right there, and thank you for the advice, is that it's not overnight. Then again, right? We're talking 10, 15 years of actually putting in the work, kind of putting your head down, figuring out which house you want to buy, what way you want to go about it, how to house hack it, right?
Mhm.
And in a long-term manner, you're going to be able to get a bunch of value out of it, right? Is there any advice that you would give? Because I know you're a risk taker, and that's how you got to, where you are now.
Now,
Would-
hold on. When you say that, you say that there's a big difference, right?
Mhm.
When people say, "Oh, like you're just risk taker gambling," like going to the casino and putting, 10 grand on black, that's risk, right? But a lot of these real estate deals, man, it comes down to the numbers. And so, you're taking a calculated risk, and based on the calculated risk, I always ask myself this: okay, what's the worst possible outcome, and what's the best possible outcome, and what's the most likely outcome? If I'm making a decision on any sort of investment, I ask myself, what is the worst possible outcome, and am I okay with that worst possible outcome? And if I am okay with the worst possible outcome, and this thing has a lot of upside, I will do that typically 10 times out of 10 times, as long as it's not going to take away too much of my time from
that
my
is a
focus. It is a calculated risk, right?
Yeah.
It is a calculated risk. And let's just, for example, if the worst possible outcome is I'm gonna break even and I'm gonna get all my money back, which a lot of these deals that we're buying, that is like the worst possible outcome is we'll do like single digit returns and we'll get all our money back, do single digit returns. That's like the worst possible outcome. Okay. Well, best possible outcome is, we could do massive returns, 40, 50% annualized, right? Some deals I've done even more than that personally. So if that's what I'm weighing, to me, what's the risk? The only risk is time. Now, so now when I'm thinking at this level, in order for me to get to where I am now, it was about saying yes to opportunities. In order for me to get to the next level, though, it's about saying no to opportunities. Now I got all these opportunities coming my way. Everyone wants to collab. They want to, partner. They want to bring me opportunities. They want to do all this stuff. And dude, I only have so much time. And so now it's about me saying no to 99% of things and just focusing on that 1%, which is what's going to get me to the next level. A lot of people out there, and they see all these like billionaires, like, oh, they, 10, 15 streams of income, and they're doing all this sort of stuff. But what they're not studying is how that person became a millionaire. How did Elon Musk, how did Jeff Bezos, how did Mark Cuban, how did they get to where they are today? When they were in there building it, they were focused on one thing and one thing only. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then when they got to the top, then they're investing in all these things and they have all these streams of income. So when people say, oh, you need 15 streams of income, like, no, that's not how you get to the top. Once you get to the top and you get a lot of money, you can do that. But in order to get from point A to the top, you have to focus on one thing.
Yeah. No, it is interesting. And I definitely understand what you're saying, because everyone always looks at the big picture, but nobody really understands the work that goes within that, especially in the beginning, right? Like for me, when it comes to pickleball, it's like, yeah, now I do pretty well, but nobody has seen like the, 8, 9 p.m. workouts in a dark alley running up a hill, like little things like that, right?
Yeah.
Or like just watching TV, me watching myself play at 2 to 4 a.m. because I can't sleep because I lost this match that I probably should have won, and things like that. And those are the things that people don't see, right? And I think when it comes to real estate specifically too, like you're saying, to me, I thought it was a risk. Now I understand it's a calculated risk, but just really coming down to the numbers, understanding and studying what it really comes down to is what makes you really propel and get to the point you want to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And a lot of people don't see the work that's put in, like they see you, rocking it on the pickleball court, but they don't see that the 4 hours that you're putting in every day, training, you're in the weight room, you're doing plyometrics, all this other stuff. They don't see all that stuff. And same thing with me, like people see the end result. And, quite frankly, I think a lot of people in life, they wait for you at the finish line, but they don't see all the work that's put in behind the scenes. The hours and hours and hours looking at deals, studying, networking, sorting through all these deals that I passed on and like studying and all this sort of stuff. They never saw that, right?
Yeah.
And they just see the end result. And that's just how the game is. But in all reality, and that's why I think a lot of people try to jump into something new and they realize, oh, this is not as easy as I thought. And then once they realize it's hard, and they also realize, hey, this is not exciting anymore because it's not new. I've been doing it for 3 months and it's a lot of work. then they find that next shiny object and they pivot over to the next thing, and they never actually give one thing enough time to actually get good at.
Yeah.
I think with anything in life, if you just give it 12 months, you're going to get pretty good at it, because most people are not willing to put in 12 months. Starting a podcast. Most podcasts die in the first 3 months because people realize, oh, this is not exciting anymore, and it's a lot of work, and then they give up. But if you can commit to doing a podcast every single week on the same day, same time for 52 weeks, an entire year, you're going to start to see results. It starts to compound at that time. And it's like a hockey stick model, right? It's like you grow, you kind of flatline, and then all of a sudden you hit this pivotal point and you start going vertical. It's the same thing with the content, you know?
Yes. And the way that I'm looking at it is, it's like anything, right? Like you have to, like you start something, you spend all the money and all these things, and then it goes downwards. And then, but at some point it's going to hit maybe rock bottom, but then the only place you can go now is up, right? So for me, like starting the podcast, like you put a lot of money and effort and time into it. But if I keep doing it, kind of like you're saying, during the 52 weeks, 1 year round, at some point it can't go down any further. It has to go up, right? So I think that's kind of what you're getting to. If you do something for a long enough period of time, you're going to get good at it.
Yeah. A great example of this is Alex Hormozi. So Alex Hormozi has really blown up over the last 2 years, like 2 million followers on Instagram. And he's just blowing up. His content's really good, rightfully so. And, what people don't realize is Alex Hormozi had a podcast for 4 years before he even started getting noticed. And for 4 years, he says he had 2,000 to 3,000 downloads a month for 4 years. It never grew. And then all of a sudden, 2 years ago, it blew up. And people see the finished product, but they don't see the 4 years of content that he was pumping out while no one was listening. And his content back then was just as good as it was today. It's just the only thing different is now people are noticing him and they're just sharing it and it's blowing up. So that's what I mean by that. A lot of people would have given up in those first 4 years. Yeah. Most people, 99.9 would have given up in those first 4 years, and he stuck it through.
Yeah.
And now he's reaping the benefits of it.
So what would be the number one piece of advice that you would give to the people that have started something, they enjoy it, they like it, but they just can't get that 3 month mark. They just can't get through the 6 months. Like it's too taxing for them. What advice would you give those people that are giving up too soon, too early?
I'm going to say, find something that you desire enough to where you're not going to just throw in the towel or give up. In my opinion, if you give up after 2 or 3 months, you just don't want it bad enough. And it's just not a priority for you. A lot of people say they don't have the time. A lot of businesses fail. Businesses don't fail because they run out of money. Businesses fail because the entrepreneur gives up, and the entrepreneur decides that it's no longer worth their time for that same result. And so I'd say for the folks that out there that give up after 2 or 3 months, they just need to find something else that they desire enough to where they're willing to put in the time for 12 months, and they're willing to be shitty at something for 12 months straight in order to start getting some success and start seeing some results. At the end of the day, we all have the same 24 hours. Everyone says, oh, I don't have the time. Well, it's like, dude, we all have the same 24 hours. It's just not a priority. Simple as that. People say, I don't have the time for the gym to work out. Like, dude, it's just not a priority for you.
Wake up earlier.
Yeah. And I'll say that's the simplest thing. If for anyone out there listening to this, if you need a couple hours of time, the simplest fix to that is just go to bed 2 hours earlier and wake up 2 hours earlier. Like, nothing good happens after 10 o'clock at night. Even 9 o'clock at night, nothing productive is really going to happen. There are like the rare 1% that they get all their work in from 9 p.m. to 1 in the morning and they're productive. That's great. But for the 99% of us, you're not doing anything productive after 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So instead of going to bed at midnight or 1, go to bed at 10 or 11 and wake up 2 hours earlier. Shit. If you go to bed at 9, you can wake up at 5 o'clock with 8 hours of sleep. You can go to the gym. You can, start working at 6:30 and tell me you're not going to have more production. Tell me your output's not going to go up. Because for me, I have a lot of distractions after like 9 o'clock. It's like I get in the office, the team is all showing up between 9 and 10. And then it's like a lot of distractions. People are blowing up my cell phone. I'm getting emails left and right. It's harder for me to focus. But before 9 o'clock, I don't have a lot of that stuff. Before 8 o'clock is nothing. So for me to focus, that's like great. It's huge. I feel like I'm getting a jump start on the rest of the world.
Yeah, and that's when you get your workout too. You get your workout around 7 a.m., right? So what does like the day-to-day look like for you? You wake up, you go to bed at a certain time, you wake up at a certain time, and what happens after?
Yeah, so Typically I wake up around 6:30. I try to be in the gym around 7, and then I try to get in the office by 8:30, 9. I like to work out early versus after. I just feel like it sets the tone for my day. I get some good energy, and then I try to post on social media first thing. So the two most important things for me first thing in the day is like get a workout in, get a post out on social media, and then typically, depending on the day, I might have a lot of meetings. So Mondays, I front load my week. So Mondays, we have an L10 meeting with the team, and then I jump into a bunch of one-on-one meetings throughout the day, and then I have end the day with a call with my business coach. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, we have our mastermind call, and I have other meetings. And then Wednesdays is content. So Wednesdays, we typically do 3 podcasts, sometimes 4. Wow. And then if we need to shoot any like one-off content or to the camera content, we'll do that also on Wednesdays. And then Thursdays, it kind of lightens up a little bit. And then Fridays, I keep very light. So Fridays, I don't put much on my calendar. I like to kind of use those days for like just utility days. So, if I need to, tie up some loose ends from the week, or if I need to brainstorm, come up with some creative ideas, I'll do that on Fridays.
Yeah. I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
And this has something to do with your day, but you wear hats quite often,
Mm-hmm.
and we all know you have hair.
Yep.
What's with the what's with the ears inside of the hat? Why do we do that?
With real estate investing, asset protection and protecting yourself from personal liability is huge. The best way to address this is to correctly set up your LLCs and entity structure. For us at Summers Capital, we use Prime Corporate Services to set up, manage, and provide guidance for all of our entities, making it truly hands-off. If you want to learn more, visit Prime Corporate Services/Rich Summers to book a free call and receive a special podcast listener offer. Again, visit primecorporateservices.com/Rich Summers to book a free call. Now back to the show.
Dude, it's just comfortable for me, man, to tuck them in. For me, I guess I started wearing hats when I started playing baseball, like Little League baseball as a kid.
Yeah.
And like for me, the way the hat sits, for whatever reason, if I put them out, it like makes my ears stick out.
Okay.
And so I just always tucked them in. It just felt more natural, because naturally when I take my hat off, my ears are like tucked in. And so it just always felt uncomfortable to wear them on the outside of the hat. And so I just always did that from a young age.
Interesting.
And then, yeah, I do have hair, and like it's funny because like this past Saturday I was at a private party up in Encinitas. Shout out to Andrew White and in Fastlane Drive and Clem, who threw this event. But I'm in Exotic Car Club, and they threw this big charity event. It was sick. 12,000 square foot house. They had Twister come and like rap, and they had like, it was casino night. They had the Ryan Garcia fight on. Shout out to Ryan Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
Shocked the world.
He did shock the world.
That was crazy. But anyhow, so it was a nice event, cocktail attire. So, got suited up, took my hat off, and it's funny because a lot of people are like, we didn't know you had hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I do have a hair. And, I think the hat's been my brand. It's kind of been my brand. So that's why I've kind of always rocked it. But I am going to start maybe like taking the hat off a little bit more often.
Yeah, you
switch up the game a little bit. Kind of keep them guessing.
Especially if you got a lot of compliments out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it is funny because every time it is your look, and when I watch your reels, obviously I love all the content that you put out and everything that you do. It's always the hat, it's always the ears in, and it's always the side profile. And I think it just looks amazing.
Thank you, bro.
You also wear a lot of Built. What's like your partnership with Built like?
Yeah, so we have an affiliate with Built, and they actually reached out to me on Instagram, and they were like, hey, like we see you rocking our stuff. I was rocking their stuff before this.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in it. All their stuff's really good, comfortable. I even wear their socks and underwear. Best underwear in the world. I do believe in that. But anyways, they reached out on Instagram. They're like, hey, we see you rocking our stuff all the time. We'd love to like discuss something. So we did like an affiliate partnership, and they're great. They're great, man. They have a shop up in their warehouses up in Orange County. Okay. They've been pretty much mostly online. They've been open for 4 years now, but they're opening 10 retail shops down in California, LA, Orange County, and even a little bit in San Diego, which is exciting. And they're bringing on more partners and sponsorships. So we've been talking and potentially do something a little bit bigger together. We're going to do a little collab, a little Summers Capital and Built collab. So they're going to do some cool Summers Capital swag, like hoodies and hats and that sort of thing, which I love their stuff. So I'm pretty pumped for that. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, very cool. And, big shout out to them. I like their stuff a lot too. I actually Greg bought me I think it was like a jacket or something for Christmas. I haven't worn it yet, especially because a lot of what I wear, I'm sponsored by Stack.
Okay.
And so most of my attire, has to do with Stack nowadays. But I love Build too, and they do really good stuff. And I tried it on, and it's super comfortable. If there is is there a book out there for people to get that want to get started into real estate that they should 100% just go and buy a Barnes and Noble right now?
Yeah. I would say if you're just, working a 9 to 5 and you're like, man, what's this real estate investing? What's all this stuff about? I would say a couple books to get the wheels turning. I would say Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I'm not going to teach you like real estate investing strategy, but it's going to get you your mindset thinking in the right direction, thinking about how do I create streams of passive income, and how do I get away from trading my time for dollars. That's really big. Just get you in the right mindset. It will change, especially Cash Flow Quadrant. It will change the way that you look at money. But I would read Rich Dad Poor Dad first. I'd read Cash Flow Quadrant after that. And then if you're still into it and you're like, if it's for you and you read those 2 books, you're going to be like fucking pumped.
Yeah, you just
Mindset wise, you're going to be like, all right, what's next?
Yeah.
And if you feel that way after reading those 2 books, then I would start reading some more real estate investing books. So the Blue Book by Brandon Turner on real estate investing is a good baseline. I would say a good intro to commercial real estate would be Multifamily Millions by Dave Lindahl, and Crushing It in Commercial Real Estate by Brian Murray. Those 3 books would be a good intro into real estate investing, residential, but also commercial real estate. Commercial real estate is powerful because the way these properties are appraised are different than residential real estate. So yeah, I would say those 5 books if you're interested.
Yeah, we're gonna have to write those down, Nick. We definitely do. A follow-up question to that is, what's it like to be meeting up and having all these podcasts and all these, deals that you're doing with people like Grant Cardone, Ryan Pineda? Like, obviously for somebody like me, like I look at you, I look at them, and I'm like that's the next step, right? Being able to like hang out and talk to you guys and pick your brain and learn from that, right? But
Totally.
obviously, I mean, I don't know exactly the time frame of everything, but maybe when you started getting big at that time, maybe there was somebody that you kind of looked up to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
And how was those first like reactions? How did all those first podcasts and conversations go with them?
Yeah, I would say, I always look up to like 4 or 5 real estate investors or entrepreneurs that are ahead of me, because you got to have someone that's above you that you strive to become. Right? And so those 4 or 5 people will evolve over time. And so early on, it was different folks. I would say now, the folks that I kind of study or look up to the most would be Alex Hermosi. I listen to his stuff so much.
Yeah,
it's so good. And a lot of that stuff resonates with me. So I would say Hermosi, Pace Morby, Ryan, and I would say Grant Cardone would be like kind of those 5 right now that I kind of look up to the most. Patrick David, I'd throw him in there as well. He's great. But yeah, dude, it's kind of crazy, man. Like, I don't know, like to sit down in the same room or conversation, or even have Grant Cardone like come on the pod and like, come into our office with his daughter Sabrina and like just come and talk shop and hang out with us. It was kind of crazy. And, being able to like collab and hang out with these other big names is like kind of crazy, dude. Like, I don't know. I think about it all the time. I get kind of numb to it, but
yeah,
to think back, I'm like, man, it was just a couple years ago where, no one knew who I was. I had like 2,000 followers on Instagram. And, it was actually not even 2 years ago. It was like,
wasn't that?
It was just under 2 years ago where I decided, all right, I'm gonna start posting on social. And I just started posting daily. And then it just started growing, and then certain people started following me. And then, if someone follows you on Instagram, you can DM them and they'll get the DM. And so that's kind of how it started. But yeah, it's weird, dude. I got like people like Tarek El Moussa, like, he's reaching out saying, hey, I want to do a boutique hotel deal with you. He's like, I'll bring, a bunch of capital. Brian Malarkey, he's like Top Chef. He's all over Food Network. He's got a couple big restaurants. Anime, the one that we were at, when you came down. Great restaurant, by the way. But like, yeah, like he's like a restaurant genius, and he's reaching out to me, saying, hey, I want to do a big hotel deal with you. I'll bring the restaurant portion, you do the hotel. And got guys like Tarek reaching out saying they want to partner. And I'm like, Grant Cardone's coming to our office, all his people. I'm like, It's weird, dude. Like it just starts to happen quick with the content, and I guess I'm just feeling grateful and lucky that you put out the content. 'Cause a lot of people put out the content, but they don't see much traction, right? Or it takes a long time to start getting traction. So I've been lucky that it started to happen a little bit sooner than later for us. So I told the team, I'm like, guys and gals, I'm like, we proved out the hardest part, and the hardest part is just kind of getting that initial ball rolling. And so now it's a matter of like, let's dial everything in. Let's continue to get better, and let's continue to scale this thing. It's everything. It's content. How do we get better at operating hotels, buying real estate, raising capital? How do we, get better with everything? Relations with our investors, the community that we're building, because it's really a community that we're building. It's, the meetups that we're doing. We got yacht meetups in the summer, and then we got investors. We do a lot of cool events for them, and then, all of our mastermind members and the team. So, it's more than just business. Like we're building a community at this point, and all the podcast guests, we got like 90% of our guests right now are flying in from out of town. And so I'm like, I don't know, it's crazy to see this thing grow, and it can happen quickly, but it all starts with, it compounds, it snowballs, but it all starts with, that desire. Like none of this would happen if I didn't want it, you know what I mean? But I want it so fucking bad. And I think my biggest takeaway is, and I say this in the most humble way ever, having conversations with like all these big name people, and I'm like, dude, like they're nothing special. Like they are, but the only difference is like they took action, and they like committed to certain business plans, and following up and following through with what they say they're going to do, and they took action. That's the main thing. But my biggest takeaway is like, you realize after you're having conversations with a lot of these folks, like, they're just everyday people as well. They just committed to their dreams, and they committed to taking action. And it's just given me a lot more confidence to know, like, we're gonna run all these people over one day. I want this so bad, and I want to build such a big thing that I know it's just a matter of time, dude. Like Grant Cardone, love him. He's a badass, but he's 65 years old, man. Like I'm 38. I feel like we're just getting warmed up. So I'm excited to see where we go.
Yeah, and the biggest takeaway is that everyday ordinary people that do big things, right? And it's like Conor McGregor said one time, if you breathe air, it's fair game, right? And that's the coolest thing. And on my part, obviously talking to you, talking to Golden Tate, hanging out with James Blake, like we're all just dudes that just do things maybe something better than others. We're willing to take action, we're willing to do things other people are not willing to do, and that's what makes us to some extent better, and like you said, in the most humblest way.
And shout out to Golden. Appreciate you introducing me to Golden, and he's going to be coming on the podcast here in a week and a half. So excited for that conversation, man.
Yeah, he goes a long way. He's a super cool dude, really involved in pickleball. I know you're not. I know you dabble a little bit, and you played a couple times, a couple people with some courts. But the one last thing that I want to ask you that I'm interested about is most of your team are girls. When I went to the office, you had maybe like 4, 5, 6 girls, and they had, I think, Parker in there.
Yeah, we got two guys on the team now, Parker and Tommy.
Yeah. What is that? Why do you have so many girls in the team?
Dude, it's not by design, but I've actually found that, like, generally speaking, and Parker is an exception, but generally speaking, I noticed the women actually work harder. They're more loyal. They'll go to bat, dude. They'll run through a wall for me. And, I've noticed a big difference. And, and this is ironic because, I think a lot of guys right now, it's tough to be a guy in today's culture. You got women that, traditionally back in the day, especially in the ancestor period and all that, like men are needed to support and, support for the family. Right. Yeah. And, I think in today's age, women are like, hey, I don't need a man. I can go to college. I can become a doctor. I can become an attorney. And there's a big feminine movement. And so it's tough to be a guy right now. And I think, you're seeing a lot of men that are out there that are, 35 years old, living at home with their parents, playing video games because, they kind of feel stuck. And I think it's hard to be a guy right now. And quite frankly, I feel like in my experience, a lot of men can be more sensitive than women these days. And so that's why I've kind of, hired more women than men.
Yeah, and overall, you sometimes do a better job too, right? Like that's really what it comes down to. And Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of friends personally that, maybe they're not 35, maybe they're like 30 or a little bit younger, and they're stuck. They don't know what they want to do. They don't even know how to do it, and they're just lost,
Yeah.
and I hope that all of them get, to figure out what they want to do in life and kind of propel and go from there. But
And I'll say this real quick. As hard as it is to be a man right now because of the culture that we're in this big feminine movement, you can actually use that to your advantage, because a lot of men out there, like I said, are living at home at 35, playing video games and not taking life seriously. They have no desire. They're just kind of defeated. And so if you're a guy out there looking for that next thing, if you're hungry, and you have a good vision, dude, like, you can run a lot of these guys over.
Yeah.
And it's not that hard. The competition out there is not that hard as a guy. And it's not that hard to kind of become that top 1 or 2% out of all men out there if you just stick to something long enough to get actually good at it and get some traction. And I'm talking 12 months.
yeah,
Like, you can literally pick any new thing in America and just stick to it for 12 months, get around the right people and actually study it and just do nothing but that for 12 months. And you can go to the top.
yeah,
I truly believe that.
yeah. I would 100% agree. But I wanna open up the pod to whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, dude. Well, I love everything that you're doing, man. You're fucking doing great, dude.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate
How old are you right now?
I just turned 24
Yeah,
2 weeks ago.
dude, you're crushing it. You're crushing it. I wish I would have started a podcast at 24. I wish I would have.
Dude, it's incredible. Like, I'm not getting that many views. I just started. I'm trying really hard, even to just get better at talking, right?
Yeah.
Talking to some of you guys, I find myself saying, like,
It's
things
okay.
like that too
It's okay.
much. And these are things that I'm trying to get
I say
better
it all
at.
the time. It's okay.
Yeah. The biggest thing to me has been just from creating the podcast itself. I have found new opportunities within even the pickleball realm of things, where like energy drink, F3. But I have to give you one of those if you drink energy drinks. By the way, they're really good.
I don't. I'm a black coffee guy.
Yeah.
I don't like a lot of sugar or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a black coffee type of guy, and that's it.
You're a healthy guy.
I believe in the 80-20 rule. So
Okay.
80% of the time I eat clean. I go to the gym. I try to be like fit.
Mhm.
And then 20% of the time I'll do whatever. And that's, might include going out for drinks, going out to eating whatever. But for me, it's all about balance. If I go 100% on that kind of stuff, the fitness and the diet, I'll get burnt out.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of people do like 75 hard, where it's like 2 workouts a day, drink a gallon of water, eat super clean for 75 days, no alcohol, nothing. I don't know if I could do that. For me, I would get burnt out. So for me, I believe in the 80-20 rule. It works really good for me. And I think you can apply that to a lot of different realms of life. And I don't know, for everyone, they have something that works for them, right? But for
Yeah.
me, the 80-20 rule works.
Yeah, and it comes out to consistency, right? If you can consistently do the 80-20, then it's what you should stick to. If you consistently can do the 75 hard, then so be it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just to like finish it off, I was just gonna say, the F3 that I'm talking to right now, couple grip companies, Hesacor, big shout out to Hesacor. Really looking forward to working with them as well. But bro, I know you're busy. Thank you for making the hour here, and I'm really really happy to get you on my podcast. And
Yeah.
big shout out to yours, the Summers Report, and best of
Question
luck.
for you
Ooh.
before we end this.
Ooh.
So, you mentioned that I play pickleball a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
My buddy's got 2 really badass courts in
Mhm.
Rancho Santa Fe. What's it going to take you to get you out there for a little pickup ball on like a Saturday?
No, we're boys, so it wouldn't take much. All it takes is a text, me saying yes, and actually being in town. So
Okay.
I'll come out anytime, kick it with you guys, hang out, have a good time, and let's get out there. Maybe we'll get Parker out there too.
Oh,
And
watch out.
and yeah, then maybe we play some cash games.
Oh, cash games.
Cash
Okay,
games.
now we're talking. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm down, man. I'm going to take you up on it.
Awesome, thanks, brother.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you,
Thank
Lucky. Thank you.